I think Michael would have been really proud if he's here today. This is a concert that he would really have loved, and that's why I'm supporting it.
I have to ask, though, with the timing of the trial, and I know you don't want to go into specifics, but I do want to mention not all the family members, the Jackson family members, are on board. For example, Jermaine and Randy. In fact, they went as far as issuing a joint statement recently saying, we want to make it clear that this does not reflect the position of the entire family. I have to ask, Ms. Jackson, why now with the timing of the Conrad Murray trial?
Well, both of them, the trial is very important, and I can understand how Randy and Jermaine feel, but it's been 2 years, and when these gentlemen came to me and talked about it, I thought it was a good idea.
Jan, I'm going to ask you the same question. Does the timing seem a little odd to you?
I don't know if the timing seems odd. You know, this trial was postponed earlier this year. It was supposed to start in May, so perhaps there were negotiations with Mrs. Jackson and the promoters for the show to have it at this time, and then unbeknownst to them, that the
so it's something just outside of their control just happened to coincide.
I think that's what happened.
Fair enough. I understand that Catherine too needs to raise some money too. I mean, she can't get money out of the estate. She has issues, I keep hearing. So it makes sense that she's trying to sustain herself, I guess.
I think Dr. Conrad Murray's involuntary manslaughter trial is here in the United States. This concert is going to be in Wales, England. I think they're completely separate. I think the timing isn't great, but I don't think there's anything more that can be read into it.
Fair enough. Now, Jen, my understanding is you have some new information tonight about the defense.
Yes, I do. Sources connected to the case tell me that it's likely that Dr. Arnold Klein will be called to testify on behalf of the defense. He most likely will be asked about his prescription use, his prescribing Demerol to Michael Jackson in the weeks leading up to his death. Now, sources also connected to the case have told me throughout that Dr. Murray was unaware that Dr. Klein was treating Michael Jackson at the same time.
At the same time that Murray now was in attendance?
Yes.
And were other doctors, I keep hearing this too, there had been other doctors perhaps prescribing propofol?
There could be other doctors that did prescribe propofol. In the late 90s, Dr. Neil Ratner, an anesthesiologist, traveled with Michael Jackson internationally on his world tour. At that time, in the late 90s, he had medical equipment in Michael Jackson's hotel rooms at night to bring him down and bring him back up. I'm told that my sources tell me that one of the first questions if Dr. Ratner's put on the stand is, what were you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that is the question, Dr. Kapoor. I want to ask you, what was he doing? We have an anesthesiologist that basically brings an anesthesia cart into the bedroom for sleep and administers a medication that shouldn't be seen outside of a hospital or ICU. Does that seem as bizarre to you as it does to me?
I think either case. I mean, I think the cases have documented when they have had anesthesiologists actually abuse propofol themselves are the only indications we have. So its use outside of a hospital setting is absolutely unheard of.
How about an anesthesia cart to help somebody sleep? I mean, that to me is crazy. That's
I hope
absolutely
it would have
nuts.
monitoring. It might have had monitoring.
Well, no, I understand that's what they were doing. At least he had the monitoring equipment to use the propofol. But the idea of using an anesthetic, basically an anesthesia, unbelievable. Lisa, you agree it's unbelievable?
Yeah, because sleep is not the same thing as sedation, as I understand it, and that's what you get with propofol, right?
That's
sedation.
Obtundation.
Yes.
That's coma, basically.
Wow.
It's
because you can perform surgery.
And then people don't
go
breathe.
through the same cycles that you would normally do with a sleep that's restorative. So you don't get that from anesthesia. I mean, you use it very sparingly, obviously, for surgery, so you don't get any restorative sleep.
Lisa, what about this blame game for the defense? Is this a strategy that's going to work?
I think this is very important, Dr. Drew, because the defense needs another villain in the courtroom. Right now, the villain is Dr. Murray. He's this terrible guy who supposedly killed Michael Jackson. So the defense needs to deflect that. They need another villain in the courtroom. And if they can point to all these other doctors who supposedly administered propofol and other medication, they may be able to do that. Look at the Casey Anthony case. George Anthony, I think, became the alternate villain in that courtroom, and there was an acquittal. In the Michael Jackson Jackson case, the accuser's mother became the alternate villain in the courtroom, and there was an acquittal. So it's a very sophisticated and effective defense strategy to point the finger at somebody else.
What if the judge steps in right then and goes, I'll deal with those guys later. They'll be separate, or maybe the law enforcement needs to deal with them at a later date. Let's focus on Dr. Murray, no?
I don't think, my sources tell me that no other doctors in this case are going to be charged. That we have, 9 doctors on the defense witness list that Michael Jackson worked with over a decade. That's a lot of doctors.